Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor here. We're going to talk about one specific toy line today, one that I find quite often. There's various varieties. It's Polly Pockets. Most people think it's funny, you know, it's nothing that's going to be worth some money. Even the little tiny figures can sell for a decent amount of money if it's in a vintage original one from some of the first sets from the early 90s. Bluebird is one of the makers of them. There's a ton of money involved in some of these. Some of these can sell for thousands of dollars, believe it or not. But we're going to go over to the screen right now, and I'm going to show you some key items, some killer items that are Polly Pockets. Okay, so today we're just talking about Polly Pockets. Polly Pockets, if you aren't familiar, are like little tiny miniature people in play sets, houses. They came with accessories. Some of the sets came with accessories that the child could actually wear, like earrings, bracelets, watches, carrying cases, things like that. Originally, Polly Pockets was made by a company called Bluebird, which was later bought out by Mattel. The ones you are looking for are all marked Bluebird, or the best ones, I should say. There's a ton of Mattel ones that are worth some money too. When they started marketing for like Disney and the Muppets and things along that line, some of those have a horrendous value. There's like Mighty Max and some other ones where they did horror lines, where you'll find some similar ones for stuff like that. They broadened their horizon once Mattel took over, and they made other brands, as I said, like Disney, Ariel, the Muppets, and things like that. Here's a huge lot of the little figures. Now, just even some of those little tiny figures, the little tiny dolls, and they're like maybe at most like an inch tall for the most part. I think they're actually even smaller than that, most of them. They're tiny, they're small, they fit in a purse or something, a child's little purse or something. This set of just the figures and the little doodads, the rings, the jewelry pieces and stuff that you see here, this went for $1,799. Not a fake bid. This isn't some scam. This is a horrendous collection of the figures. The figures are hard to come by. Most people lost the figures, so to find this many little items like this is a horrendously huge endeavor. Someone took a long time to put this together and spent a lot of money. It's a shame the actual play sets weren't there, because this could have been the biggest set of Polly Pockets ever had they had the rest of the items with it. This might have been a $3,000 or $4,000 worth of Polly Pockets had the play sets been with the figures. Obviously, I'm fine with the figures. We've had most of the figures at one point or another. Every one we put up sells very quickly. Even some of the knockoffs, there's knockoff versions of these. Even those will sell too. I'm just going to show you a small grouping here, just give you an idea. I always look for Polly Pockets. I can still find them in the packages many times because people just don't think they're worth that much because of the newness of them. Some of these date in the 90s and up to the 2000 range. So anyway, let's look at a few more here. Here's a perfect example. Those are Bluebird. This is Mattel. It's like a little tiny little dresser box that you'd open up, and there'd be a whole playset in there with figures. The person who bought it, the child, would also get a bracelet that came with it, and you can see she's got it on her wrist there, and it's shown there. And there's a ring that matches the box. The bracelet's pretty much the same pattern of the design work that goes around the box. This one went for $1,500. 7 bids. And none of these are anomalies. There's a ton of them that go for a ton of money. Don't always look in toys for all of this kind of item. Just do a broad search if you're doing comps. That's one problem I see a lot of people do. They'll search for something like this and only go down to toys. If you only went to toys, you'd miss the top, say, 10, 15, even 20% in some of these cases, because people list these in dolls as well. So this isn't just going to be in toys. That's why many people, even when they're looking these up, just look in toys. Oh, they're not worth very much. I'm going to move on. They look like toys. You wouldn't think they'd be considered a doll, but the ones that sell the most usually are put into the doll category. Look it up. It's a big plus there. Here's obviously is this a new one? Is this Mattel? I think this is actually, yeah, here's a Bluebird one. It's basically the same thing we just saw, but instead of being Mattel, this is the original Bluebird, $958. Now, just like Star Wars or any of the vintage toys you find, there's varieties, there's scarcity by packaging and things like that. When Mattel took over, they had some products already made, so they actually packaged them with a new Mattel box for some cases, and then they ran out of the merchandise, so a new line of toys or a new vintage playset was made. So there wasn't as many of some varieties published with the Mattel label as you would find the Bluebird. So there's many differences in these. So this one's $958. 2 bids. It's sealed. Of course, that is the plus here. Now, this is usually what I run into. I run into a big lot, something like this. Any one of these can sell on their own. Even the little tiny figures you can get 10, 15, 20 bucks a piece for in many cases. Even the McDonald's ones are worth money because they're basically the exact same figures and such forth as you would actually have to go and buy in the store. I've had literally most every one of these sets. I haven't had the little RV, the minivan, but most of the rest of them I've had. As I said, even the McDonald ones on these are worth money. So if you find the McDonald ones in big bulk, which sometimes we do, I buy them all. Polly Pockets always sell. It's always sell first. I've always made a ton of money on these. Basically $700 on this lot. It's not a huge area, but there's a ton of them out here. This is Polyville. This is a super set. It's a JCPenney's exclusive. I've talked about Sears and JCPenney's and such forth. Sears had special exclusive figures you could get. Many times it's Sears that has the only one. Sometimes JCPenney's. This is one of those cases where JCPenney's had this advertised in their catalog. I don't think you could get the complete set like this anywhere else, but this set's fairly scarce. In the box, never been opened. They do show up this way still, again, because most people didn't think they were worth a ton of money. This just looks like a cheaper set if you look at it and don't pay enough attention. It's a Mattel set. It's Polyville. It's the whole set. $535. There's a bunch of this same one up too, so it's not just some one-off you're going to find. $493 US on this one. It's just a few sets together, and these are Mattel. These are all Mattel. But again, they're smaller sets. They still go for excellent money. It's a big return on our investment. I've had the one on the left. I don't remember if it's, babysitter, nursery. There's a schoolhouse. There's every building you could imagine for a set. There's houses. There's the Fantasyland Castle. I think I've got that in here too as well. So let's move on. Here's the hospital. I have not had the hospital. This is one I have not had. The babies are very popular in this one. $485 for this one. These aren't big. These are small toys. Something anybody would have walked by back in the day, 10 years ago. And these have been worth money for 10 plus years. People have collected these since the 2000 era, just because by that point they were already 10 years old. Polly Pockets came out, they did like 90, 91, 92, somewhere in that range. Here's another Polly Pocket lot. It's a locket. Then you'd open it up and there'd be a little playset in there. Some of these lockets, I think this one's the mermaid one. Yeah, that's the mermaid one. And there's a little house. It's a little grouping of just a couple things here. We always sell these, always. You can list them in a lot and get a quick movement on them. We get a little more out of them when we list them individually because people might have one that's in a lot or 2 or 3 if you bunch them all together. You're only marketing those then to the new collector that needs something or someone who's going to buy them, keep the ones he wants, and then turn around and piece them out himself. That's what, or herself. That's why I pretty much piece these out individually when I can. Unless it's just lots of little figures. I don't mess with those too much. Here's another stamper set. The left things are stampers with 2 figures. There's a carrying case, which is the Poly Moon, and then just some other doodads and stuff. That's the inside workings, and it was a set you could buy. It's not very common to find any of these sets. These are more in the craft stores like Michael's or something like that, because they had art supplies in them to some extent too, but they're very good to collect. $389 for this little grouping. Another just grouping. These are earrings, as you can see on the top. The shell earrings, little swing earrings, and the rest are like rings and things along that line. Little vehicles and such forth. These are the extras, are the ones you'd get in like little sets or little balls from like machines or McDonald's and things along that line. $380 for this lot. Another Polly Pocket. Is this a Bluebird? Yeah, here's another Bluebird one. The originals. Bluebirds are always the best. And you can see what it looks like closed up. There's like a little suitcase kind of thing. This one's small. There's not much to this one. Just a few things it includes. It still went for $315. I don't care what kind of toy it is. If it's worth some money, I'm going to be looking for it. And Polly Pockets have always made us a great return on our investment. I find bags of these sometimes at Savers, or we did before they closed, on the wall. They can turn up at Goodwill and Salvation Army also. Just because the employees there don't think much of these little tiny things. A lot of these probably just get thrown away, in all honesty. $305. Here's one of the Muppet ones. This is one of the better ones. They've really zoomed in on these. This is a very good close-up of them. You can see Pirate Island, or Treasure Island. I'm sorry, Treasure Island. These are the ones I look for the most. I believe there was a Star Wars line, as I said, the Max line. Any of these little playsets like this are worth some money. $300 basically on that one. I've had this one here too. This one's, I shouldn't say super scarce, but I've only had a couple of them. It's, I think, a stamper. Yeah, a stamper set on this one too. There's all kinds of different ones. There's hundreds of these little tiny figures. Hundreds of different ones from every set you could imagine. And many of them, you'll see the same figure in different color schemes and things along that line as well too. $295 for that set. Here's a couple other ones. The Ariel Sets, one of the ones I always look for. Little Mermaid or Disney are always best. You can see the characters even. They're really tiny, so you could lose the fish or the crab. Those are, you know, $10, $15 ones on their own sometimes. Maybe even higher, like Ursula or Ariel herself. $289 for this little lot. It's got the little boat with it and the whole works. Rather interesting. There's a little spot you can snap these in, or they mount in, so you can move things around, like the fish will swim around and Ariel can move and walk. Some of them stand up on their own. Other ones you need to place in like a certain spot. $289.99. Here's the castle, the Magic Kingdom. I've had the Kingdom a couple of times. I was missing some pieces in the train set and some of the characters. This is a good one to get right here. This is probably one of the better ones and something you might find. Even the individual, like the Dumbo and the whole works, you can sell individually. Some of them had noise, as you can see this one does, and they had like sounds and people talking and things along that line. $289. That one's complete, though. There's more than just this single one up. There's a ton of these up. Not a ton, but a half a dozen or so are up at any given time usually. Millions of some of these were probably made at one point. Now, I've had the big luxury mansion there with the car and the little carriage and all too. That set's probably one of the better ones. It makes noise, it lights up, there's some activity, there's some hidden things that the car pops out, if I remember right. You can hit a button or the top of the spiral and the car will shoot out. This is a pretty good set. The mansion, I want to say we got like 60 or 70 out of on its own with the observatory roof and the whole works. And then the other ones we've had too. These are the more, I shouldn't say common ones, but these are usually what I run into are these lines, the newer ones a little bit wise here. $287 on that lot. And here's a watch. The child could wear it. It actually told time, and it had its own little playset with one little figure. I think it had games or something like that too, maybe that were inside of it, but that you could play. Nice, unique piece. $279, basically $280. Another one. This is Bluebird as well too. This one I've only seen, I think, once. I think it had like a gel and you could squeeze it like a game or something if I remember right. Some of these were like adventure. They were play sets. They did several different things. This one's $275. Again, Bluebirds were the original ones. Mattel bought it and then they reissued it under the Mattel name. So Mattel are later versions. And here's just another grouping. I've had all of these several times. The blue one I've had 3 or 4 of. I don't know if it's more common or I'm just lucky enough to find the blue one, but usually the blue compact's the most common one I've seen. And then you can see a necklace there too, which also had a little figure and a tiny little playset in it. And this is good on that one because the child never played with it. You can still see the wrap around the cord, and that's how they would have been issued. Now, some of these would have come with the compact and a little tiny necklace, or you could have got just the necklace on its own. $255. Don't underestimate the little cheap, tiny-looking toys. Even rattles. I've made, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks on little baby rattles and all kinds of little toys that most people wouldn't think are worth money. But these Polly Pockets I always make money on, so that's what we have. Well, there you go. There's another item that I do look for. I am able to score these. Sometimes garage sales, sometimes, flea markets, church sales, thrift stores even hanging up on the wall on one of the peg walls. But again, Polly Pockets are worth a lot of money, as you just saw. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts on the matter. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.